सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरते यौपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। Welcome to all of you in this fourth retreat. The topic for this week is the ChandogyaUpanishad, the 8th chapter of the ChandogyaUpanishad. Of several Upanishads that we have, one is called ChandogyaUpanishad. The word Chandogya is derived from Chandoga. Chandamsi gayanti iti Chandogaha. Those who sing Chandas or Vedas are called Chandogaha. And the Upanishad pertaining to Chandoga is called Chandogya. It is the Upanishad of Chandogya Samaveda. The Sama is a collection of mantras mainly from Rigveda which are sung. So therefore Chandamsi gayanti, those who sing the Chandas, those who sing the Vedas are called Chandogaha. And their Upanishad is called Chandogya Upanishad. It is part of Samaveda. So Chandogya Upanishad is part of Samaveda. It has 8 chapters. The first 5 chapters of the Upanishad are devoted primarily to what is called upasana or meditation. They say that there are these obstacles to the knowledge taking place in our mind. Mala vikshepa avaranam. Mala means impurity. Vikshepa means distraction or restlessness. Avaranam means ignorance. So ignorance is, of course, the primary obstacle to knowledge. But for the ignorance to go, it is necessary that our mind should enjoy a certain disposition, should enjoy the freedom from mala impurity and vikshepa, restlessness. And therefore, we have these two main sections in the Vedas called the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda. Karma Kanda primarily describes the karma or the duties. So when our actions are performed in the spirit of these daily duties, and this is very beautifully elaborated in the Bhagavad Gita, performing duties in the spirit of yoga, in the spirit of worship to Ishvara. It's called Karma Yoga. So Lord, the Karma Kanda section, and which is explained very well in the Bhagavad Gita, the Karma Yoga is a means to the purification of our mind. How does Karma Yoga purify the mind? So we ask this question, what is impurity of the mind? In simple words we can say that selfishness is the primary impurity of the mind. Human being is primarily a selfish creature. Self-interest is the first thing that I see. Because there is some insecurity in my mind, and therefore I feel that I must protect myself. I must take care of myself. I feel a sense of insecurity, and maybe I feel that the world may damage me, attack me. And therefore a primary instinct of self-protection, self-centeredness. Therefore, the actions that are usually performed by human beings are motivated by the idea of doing something, what is in it for me, doing something for myself. Self-gratification. That's usually how people perform the actions, for gratification of the self. And when we are successful in fulfilling a desire, we call it success. So usually success is understood by the human being as the fulfillment of one's desire. More a person is able to fulfill the desires, more achievements he has, more worldly achievements the person has, more successful a person is considered to be. So this is the idea of success that drives a human being to do what he or she does. Not realizing that when we think that happiness comes by fulfilling desires, it is just the other way around, that fulfilling desires does not create happiness. In fact, it is the ground for unhappiness. And therefore, the way of happiness is not fulfilling desires, it is becoming free from desires. That is what the Bhagavad Gita wants to teach. And that's why Lord Krishna prescribes in the Bhagavad Gita. Yogastha kuru karmani. May you perform your actions as abiding the yoga. And what is yoga? Lord Krishna draws our attention in Bhagavad Gita to the prevailing order in the universe and shows how there is a spirit of paropakara, of self-offering prevalent everywhere in the universe. How every element of the universe offers itself for the functioning, the harmonious function of the universe. And then Lord Krishna says that we, as part of the universe, should also function in the spirit of self-offering. So this spirit of self-offering slowly releases me from my normal tendency of self-gratification. Vedanta points out that self-gratification is not the means of happiness. It doesn't make me happy ultimately. Self-gratification keeps on multiplying the desire for self-gratification. And therefore, the way to become happy is by this spirit of self-offering. So that is called Karma Yoga. So that is what the Karma Kanda section of the Veda and the Karma Yoga section of the Bhagavad Gita teaches. For making the mind free from malam or impurities. These impurities are, either we can call it the self-centeredness, or we can call them raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion. All of us are familiar with all this. Therefore, performing our duties in the spirit of yoga or self-offering is a way to progressively become free from this raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion, both of which are the expressions of self-centeredness. So that's the first step in the preparation for the knowledge. That's how the spiritual life begins. Religious life is one thing where we perform the worship of Ishvara, etc., which is fine. The spiritual life begins when we start performing actions in the spirit of selflessness. That is when we can say the spiritual life begins. Because that is when the inner growth or inner purification takes place. Self-growth, the inner growth. What is self-growth? When I grow in my large-heartedness, I grow in my kindness and compassion. When that is called the self-growth, the inner growth, which is a means of happiness. So that is the first step in the spiritual life of a person. Thus, Karma Yoga is the first step. Second step is called Upasana, for becoming free from the distractions or the restlessness of the mind. Upasana means meditation. Meditation means mental worship. He moved here, then this thing comes in the way. Can you see me now? Upasana means mental worship. Worshipping Ishvara with devotion, faith and devotion, Shraddha and Bhakti. Ishvara is Saguna Brahma, Brahman, upon which the attributes are superimposed. That is called the Saguna Brahman with attributes. Upanishad describes how Brahman is the cause of this creation. Yato va imani bhutani jayante. That's from which these beings have come into, the universe has come into being, by which it is sustained and to which it goes back. There is Brahman, the cause, the material cause of this creation, and also the efficient cause of the creation. So Brahman is the cause of creation. These are basic lessons which I believe you must have had. Or should I elaborate on that? Talking about the cause, take this little pot. To create this pot, we require minimum two things. One is we require clay of which the pot is made. Clay is called the material cause. Then what else do we require? To make the pot, apart from clay, what else do we require? You require a pot maker, isn't it? So, maker and material, two causes are there to create anything. For creating pot, that is the material, the clay, and maker, the pot maker. Maker is called the intelligent cause, efficient cause. Material is called the material cause. Thus we have two causes, the maker and material, the efficient cause and the material cause to create anything. Therefore, we imagine that for creating the universe also we imagine that there should be two causes. There was a creator who is God, and usually as the different traditions describe, God creates this universe out of some material. So usually the maker and material are found to be different in our day-to-day life. Therefore, they imagine that for creating the universe also, the maker is different and the material is different. That's called duality. Maker is a conscious being, material is unconscious, two are different. So what is non-duality? When the maker is different from the material, we call it two realities called duality. So what is non-duality? What would be non-duality? Maker and material must be one, then only there can be non-duality. So Lord Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Mattah paratarmnanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Hey Dhananjaya, hey Arjuna, Mattah paratarmnanyat kinchidasti. There is nothing other than me, no cause other than me. Meaning that I am both the efficient cause as well as the material cause. I have the maker as well as material. It's a simple statement but difficult to understand. Because material is unconscious and maker is conscious. How can one entity be both unconscious and conscious? Can it be? When Vedanta talks of non-duality, meaning that all there is one, if that is so, then the maker and material must be one. How can the unconscious be the maker? You follow my question? Usually, maker and material are two. Material is unconscious, maker is a conscious entity. Like clay is unconscious and the pot maker is a conscious entity, conscious being. Vedanta teaches that maker and material are one. So, the unconscious and conscious are one. Can it be? How can the maker be the material? It is a difficult question, I don't expect an answer, but still, this is possible only if the creation is not real. This is possible only if the creation is a projection and not a reality. It's not a tangible creation, it is a projection, an imagination. What do you mean, Swami? This is an imagination or what? Is it a projection? This is a solid stuff. This wall is solid. Can you walk through that? You say it's all imagination. Can you walk through the wall? But imagine that this dialogue is taking place in dream. Imagine that I am dreaming, which I do often. In dream also I conduct a class like that, and you are all sitting in front of me. Now you perhaps know that dream is nothing but the projection of my mind. You know why? Because I went to sleep. When I went to sleep, I was only by myself. When I wake up again, I am by myself. In between you have this dream world. Where did it come from? If before the dream all there was me, if after the dream all there is me, in between also what is this me? Is it not so? Should it not be? If I am dreaming like this, suppose it's dream, the dream attendants of the camp, did they have to buy tickets and travel and stuff like that? Did they have to create a hall? Or I just think of it and all takes place. Meaning that dream is a projection of my mind. Therefore, when we wake up, suppose I am dreaming like this, talking to you, and I wake up, what happens to all of you people? I was talking to you in the dream, I woke up. So what happened to the audience? They are still waiting for me. Now Swami is gone. Now let him come back again and we'll start talk. When I wake up, what happens to all of you? You also wake up. Why? Because you were projected by me, sustained by me, dissolved by me. You follow? That from which The universe is created, by which it is sustained, unto which it goes back. This formula very well applies to the dream world, is it not so? That I am the maker as well as the material of the dream. Is it not so? Because, see, there was no other material other than myself, other than my mind. So, the interesting thing is, when I was talking like in a dream, who was I talking to? In the dream, when I was talking in this manner, who was I talking to? To you. I was talking, that sounds funny, no? I was talking to myself. I was interacting with myself. Does it make sense? Because there was no entity other than myself in the dream. Before the creation of dream, I alone was. After the dream is, over, I am alone. In between also I alone am. This is an important thing to understand. But this is Vedanta. Vedanta means non-duality. Non-duality means you and I are not basically different. Although it was funny that now that we think of dream, it is funny to see how I was only talking to myself. It's equally funny to discover that even in waking also I am talking to myself. Suppose. Is it possible? How can we otherwise, if you are different, I am different, how can there be non-duality? Dream is an example of non-duality. So what do you think is waking? Is it much different from dream? See, in dream also there was a speaker and there were listeners, is it not so? And communication was taking. So in the waking also, a speaker is there, listeners are there, communication is there. What's the difference? What is the fundamental difference between the waking and dream? Please tell me. Difficult to accept? Dream is a dream. God's dream and my dream and your dream. But then, in dream there was this setup of the subject and object. The waking also, no. Listen to this. The dream, at least we accept that it was a projection. Because it was completely withdrawn, it was completely negated. So in Vedanta, they would say that dream is mithya. He's laughing, but he's not so. Dream is mithya. Otherwise, I won a lottery in a dream last night. 1 crore rupees. When I woke up, there was not a penny in my pocket. If dream was real, then I would have been a very wealthy person. I could have been in prison also by the same token. So we have no difficulty in accepting the dream was mithya. His dream is mithya. It is from the Vedic standpoint. So please tell me what is the basic difference between dream and waking. There also there is a subject, also object, interaction between subject and object, and so is right now. Difficult to accept, that means a different matter. Can't be, Swamiji, you can't say that. The Indians become emotional about this. The investigation of truth is not an emotional process. It's an intellect. Scientists are not emotional, intellectual people. So therefore, this what we call waking also is not essentially different from dream. In dimension it is different, there are differences, no doubt about that. But the basic reality of dream is mithya, the basic reality of waking also is mithya. So why are these Vedantins so so rooted and so insistent upon calling this mithya? Why is so? This mithyavadis. Why do the Vedantins talk about only mithya? The world is mithya. What do you get out of that? World is mithya means what, that you and I, this duality, is also mithya. Right now, I don't know that this is mithya, therefore I take you to be different from myself, and I take myself to be different from you. So I draw boundaries. When I deal with you, I deal with you in a different way. When I treat myself in one way, I treat you in a different way. Is it not so? I take all the care about myself. I don't care about you. As long as it is convenient, I can do. Otherwise, is it not that my attitude towards you is quite different from my attitude towards myself? Does it make me happy? Looking upon you as different from myself, which is what it is right now, Upanishad says that is the root of all the unhappiness. Brahmavatam paradat yeh brahma atmanyatra veda. Says one who looks upon the people as different from himself. When I look upon you as different from myself, meaning that I do not respect you as much as I respect myself. Is it not so? I am something special in my perception. Meaning that I do not look upon you as valuable as I look upon myself. Is it not so? Which means that I devalue you, I downgrade you in my mind. So this is what the duality does. Duality creates division. You are different and I am different. I am the most valuable entity to myself and I like you and love you as long as convenient to me, otherwise I can let you go. Is it not so? Love for myself is unconditional. I love myself in all conditions. Morning, evening, afternoon. Our Swami used to tell us, this man wakes up in the morning, first thing he does in the bathroom, he looks at his face, which nobody else may want to look, but first thing he looks at is his face. And then while brushing also, he loves to look at his face. And after he's all radiance, and then when he goes out, then also any shining surface, like the hood of a car, he looks, although it may show him very ugly, very distorted, but he looks at it. In big cities like New York, where there are all these huge stores with glass windows and people take walk during lunch, the ladies, in that glass, you see your reflection. So, this body we love so much that, how much we love ourselves, imagine. When it comes to you, my love for you is only convenient, conditional. As long as you make me happy, so long I like you. If you start making me unhappy, I don't care for you. Our Swami used to say, I love you, 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 I love you. What I am saying is this duality is called division. It's not an ordinary thing. It creates all these problems between you and me. This is the basis for all the problems. The division that you are different and I am different. That is the cause of all the conflicts. we try to solve all the problems retaining this division. That is taken for granted. And then we want to solve. You may solve problems to some extent, but you cannot solve them totally because the source of problem is this division that you are different and I am different. Think about that. Brahmatam paradad ihatmanantaram. So Upanishad says that when I look upon you as different from me, you reject me. Because looking upon you as different from myself is as good as rejecting you, because I don't respect as much as I respect myself. Therefore, when we look upon each other as different from each other, then there is this relation of rejection, each other's rejection. No, I don't do that, Swami, but we do it in a subtle manner. A time will come when I say this is you and this is me. So this is called Dvaitam. This is called duality. Dvaita does not mean two. Dvaita means division. Called mutual division. So anyonya abhavaha bheda. Mutual exclusion is called Veda, or so when Vedanta says duality, it doesn't mean two, mutual exclusion. Understand this? That is, I exclude you, and in turn, I get excluded by you. This is not an ordinary thing. This is the source of all the conflicts in our life. We may not have thought about it. We may think that not having money is one thing, and this person doesn't like me, and that one doesn't treat me. So, but all of the results from you are different, and I am different. When do I not treat you respectfully? I never treat myself disrespectfully. I always respect myself. When I treat you disrespectfully means I look upon you as different from myself. Is it not so? If I looked upon you as myself, I would always love you. Because I always love myself, I respect myself, I take care of myself, then there will be what? Heaven in this world. If each one did to others, looking upon them as themselves, took as good care of others as they did of themselves, what would be here? Brahmaloka, is it not so? No divisions, no conflicts. It is no division, no conflict. What is there? Happiness. Though happiness comes from Bhandara. And nothing against Bhandara. What I am saying is that happiness does not come from something other than myself. Happiness has to come when there is this state of mind wherein there is the mutual inclusion, not exclusion. So understand what is meant by non-duality. It means including others. Ultimately, non-duality means including the whole universe. And that's a big thing. That's a tall order. But this is the ideal that Vedanta presents before us. And that is why Lord Krishna teaches what is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is performing a duty including others. When I only look at my interests, I am not including others. Hey, include others. Spirit of offering means include others. An offering can be how big? You can offer yourself the whole universe, include the whole universe. That is the ultimate dimension. So Karma Yoga teaches the spirit of inclusiveness. Non-duality means total inclusiveness. Understand? In practical terms, what non-duality would mean is this. Is that when I say you are I and I am you means I include you. Whether you include me or not. So he doesn't include me, doesn't matter. It is my pleasure to include you. Even if you are not included, yes. Adveshta Sarabhutanam, Lord Krishna says he doesn't hate anybody. Even those who hate him, he doesn't hate them. So that is non-duality. And that is possible if the two causes are not two, they are one. Now we came all the way to, but anyway, discussion started with this. The only when the material cause and efficient cause and maker and material are one, then only there can be non-duality. Otherwise the material stands apart from maker, then it is not non-duality. There are two realities. So then, Swami, how can it be then that maker and material are one? Maker is a conscious being, material is unconscious. How can they be one? Only if what is created is not real. The real part, you will require maker and material too. For imaginary part, I am the maker and I am the material because it's imagination, my imagination. That's why in dream I don't require any material. I am the maker and the material. Vedanta says that even the waking world is not essentially different. Meaning that this conscious and unconscious can be one if both are projections, not otherwise. Meaning that for non-duality to be so, the universe must be a projection. Projection is called mithya. So this is how Upanishad teaches us. The main theme of the Upanishad is to teach us non-duality, to teach us the inherent oneness that exists in spite of all this diversity, all these differences, even all the dissimilarities, unsimilarities, disparities. That Upanishad does not deny that there are not many names and forms, does not deny that there is no dissimilarity, is all accepted. In spite of the duality, there is non-duality. As the Bhagavad Gita says, Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shunichaiva swapakecha panditaha samadarshinaha. In a very pious Brahmana who is learned, a sattvic person, in a cow, in an elephant, in a dog, in an untouchable, sattvic, rajas, tamas, all these beings. Panditaha samadarshinaha, the wise see the same truths everywhere. How can it be, Swamiji? This fellow is a sattvic person, this fellow is rajas, this fellow is very dirty, this is a very ugly person, look at his body, look at his mind, everything is filthy. And here everything is wonderful. How can there be oneness in them? Even if God also is there in the Brahmana, will he not become also pious? And if God also is there in this untouchable, will he not also get affected? You say that Ishvara is the self of a Brahmana and untouchable both, but doesn't get affected. He is a pious Brahmana, is untouchable. If God is the self of both, would not God be affected by them? So this happened, this is a story described in Vedanta, I am sure most of you know that. It is said that once upon a time, in the city of Banaras, in the olden days, in times of Shankaracharya, it was routine to take the dip in the Ganges, fill the Ganges water in his kamandalu, water pot, walk to the temple of Lord Shiva, Those days, very narrow lanes. Now they made a very broad thing, but narrow lanes. This was a routine. So one morning, early, it dawned. So still it is, sun is not risen, it's not clear. And Acharya, after taking a dip in the Ganges along with his disciples, going from the river to the temple, and all of a sudden he found that a huge person is occupying the whole street, because streets are very narrow. And he was a sweeper. And therefore the Acharya says, Gacha, gacha, move away, move away. This was a habitual error, move away, because he had just taken bath in the Ganges, and this is untouchable, he's a sweeper. If he touches them, then he'll have to take bath again. And that sweeper confronted him with, yes, oh, you are a pious Brahmana, you are most respectful and learned. I will certainly follow your instruction. I'll certainly move away. Move away, move away. Yes, I'll move away. Just seeking one clarification. Please tell me what do you want? What you want to move away from what? Do you want this lump of flesh move away from that lump of flesh? Is that what you mean? Or do you want this consciousness to move away from that consciousness? What do you want? Annamaya, Annamaya, Chaitanyeva, Chaitanyat. Durikanto vanchase kim bruhi gacha gacheti. You tell me, gacha gacha, move away. Please just clarify, then I will follow, obey your instructions. You want this lump of flesh to move away from that, or you want this consciousness to move away from that consciousness? He woke up. Acharya must have been perhaps, he just came to this world. And that sweeper further clarified, it turned out to be a great scholar. He said that when the sun gets reflected in the Ganges water from where you are coming from the Ganges, pure, same sun gets reflected in the sewage water from where I am coming, because he is coming from that kind of locality. Does the sun get affected? Does it get impure when it gets reflected in the sewage water? And does it get purified when it gets reflected in the Ganges water? Does it? Does the sun get purified and holy because it gets reflected in the Ganges water? And does the sun become unholy because it reflected in the sewage water? Will it? Yes or no? Is my question clear? Sun is there. S-U-N sun. The Ganges water is flowing, sun gets reflected in the Ganges, which is very holy, right here, and gets reflected in the sewage water flowing in that locality, in the slums. Would not the sun get impure when it gets reflected in that impure water? No? So this is what is described in Sanskrit. King Gangam bimbite ramanau. So when the sun becomes reflected in the Ganga, or another example he gives, that the space which is in the clay part, the space which is in the golden part, the space becomes more precious because it is in golden part, becomes less precious because it is in a clay part. Then, sir, where did you get the idea that I am different from you, that I am untouchable and you are a Brahmana? Where did you get this duality? Chandala also Satu Dvija. This Chandala and this is Dvija. Where did you get that? Bheda Buddhi. Acharya has woke up, He may be his own Brahma, Loka, I guess, in his own Ham Brahmasmi. He came down to this world. But look at his humility. He fell at the feet of this sweeper. He says, one who has this knowledge is my guru, whoever it is. Chandalostu satudvijostu guru rityesha manisha mama. One who has this knowledge, whether he is a Chandala, untouchable, or a Brahmana, he is my guru. Who says? The guru of all the gurus says that. Meaning that the self of the Atma does not get contaminated because it is in the body of an untouchable, and does not become holy because it is in the body of a holy person. Therefore, the wise people, in a holy Brahmana, in a cow, in an elephant, in a dog, in an untouchable, in all these pure and impure entities, the Atma, the self, the conscious, doesn't get affected at all. Just as the space does not get affected in whatever container it is, just as the reflection doesn't get affected where the reflection takes place, so also the self of the consciousness doesn't get affected by the attributes of this one. So what is in you is what is in me. Right now, this is what is in you is what is in. I'm not saying you are me, because still I think I am in this and that. I look upon this body as myself. That's the problem. So I look upon that body as you. And that's a journey that Vedanta wants us to traverse. Is the transformation in my concept or perception of myself. What Vedanta seeks to accomplish is to bring about in me a transformation of perception of myself. Because whether I am happy, that I am happy is a result of my perception of myself. I'm unhappy also is a result of my perception of myself. No, Swamiji, I'm happy when I'm eating ice cream. I'm happy when I'm in an air-conditioned hall. I don't think so. We think so. What makes me happy? When I'm happy with myself. What makes me unhappy? When I'm not happy with myself. When I am happy with myself, when I am able to live up to my own expectation of myself. When I am unhappy, when I am not able to live up to my expectation of myself. Suppose I find that I always fulfill my expectation of myself, suppose. Then I am always happy, is it not so? So that's the way. How Vedanta wants us to become is not by giving us wealth and stuff like that. Because happiness also does not come from unhappiness also doesn't come from there. Happiness is the result of my perception of myself. Unhappiness also result of my perception of myself. Change that perception. Say, I am Brahman, that's the end of it. Thank you, Swamiji, I am Brahman. By saying that it doesn't happen. By saying I am Brahman, if I really see myself Brahman, that would be wonderful. Doesn't happen. Therefore, that saying must also happen. That's why we require that mind, What they call the purity of mind, the single pointedness of the mind. Such that these words will create their meaning. Basically, when does communication take place? when the words used by a speaker create a meaning in the mind of the listener. And the word should create the same meaning in which the speaker intended them. So Upanishad says, you are Brahman. I listen, I am Brahman. If in my mind, same perception takes place of myself that was intended by Upanishad, that's then job is done. But even when I listen, they say, you are Brahman, they are so kind and so generous to say, hey, you are Brahman. Am I? Yes. I can't believe that. I cannot give that much credit to myself that I am Brahman. No. You can be, but I cannot be. Therefore, we require certain frame of mind when there is self-acceptance, self-respect. That is called Antakarana Shuddhi, purity of mind. That is called purity of mind when I am happy with myself. Simple. Swami, how do I know that I am progressing in my self-purification? More happy you are with yourself, purer the mind is. There is one entity which I am most unhappy, that's myself, unfortunately. So Antakarana Shuddhi, removal of this impurity, and the removal of vikshepa, the extrovertedness, restlessness. So karma yoga and upasana, that's why the upasanas are there, the meditations are there. And that's how the ChandogyaUpanishad, of 8 chapters of ChandogyaUpanishad, the first five are devoted to meditation. Not in no other Upanishad. Upanishads hardly talk about meditation, upasana. Brihadanyaka is such a huge Upanishad, hardly any upasana at all. No upasana in Ishavasya, no upasana is hardly little in Kena Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, etc. So, because 5 chapters are devoted to upasana, therefore we talked about the meditation upon Ishvara, called Saguna Brahma. And that creates the background for the knowledge of Brahman. So with this background, we will continue our discussion on the ChandogyaUpanishad. We will come to 8th chapter in course of time. But first, what is Upanishad? Then we will see a little bit review of what went in earlier chapters. And then we will come to our 8th chapter also. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyoma Vadvyapta Dehaya Lakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.